So, just some housekeeping before we really jump into the program. So, we are Tucker United. We're made up of the people in this room. Neighbors, supporters, people of Tucker County. So, there's a number of folks who kind of serve as the steering committee. So, a lot of us have t-shirts on. So, I'd like to ask the steering committee and the different committee folks to raise their hands. And you'll hear from them at the latter part of the program because they're going to come up, because this program is really designed to be about getting information out and hearing what's concerning people and what your questions are. I'm going to really strive to get as many questions in as possible. I'm going to tell you that we're going to have a hard time sticking to our 2-hour meeting, but maybe with a little sustenance from the bread, we'll be able to make it through this meeting in a timely fashion. But I do want to say this is our inaugural community meeting, but it's not our last meeting. And I will promise, as part of the steering committee, that we'll be doing some Zoom-only meetings. This space is not as conducive to doing a PowerPoint, and also it's not as conducive, when you do things like that, it's not as conducive to really fostering a sense of community. So we'll be breaking into small groups and talking to each other and connecting, and that's what today is about. And so future meetings, we would love to be invited to other parts of the county, to your community groups, to other churches. So we'll talk a little bit at the end about where we're headed with that. My job, my name is Chris Parfait. Beth, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Beth Bainey.
So Beth and I have sort of become a little bit of the key coordinators for the steering committee, but it's really the work of all the people you saw raising hands and all the people asking questions. Our jobs really today are to keep the agenda moving. I'll be serving as the MC and trying to elicit as much information from folks and questions so that we can take that information and do the research. We're not guaranteed we have the answers today because there's not a lot of answers. Beth is going to really help on the latter part of today's program, where we're going to bring up some of our experts or people who've been doing the research and answer questions that we can, and we'll take it from that point at the latter part of this program. So I really appreciate the invitation that Pastor Ruth gave, and I think it sets a context for about how the work that we've been undertaking as a community here. On April 13th, the town of Davis hosted a meeting. Mayor Allie, you want to raise your hand? With the support of a lot of other groups over at the Davis Fire Hall. Within days, Tucker United was born. And it was born of people who really love this community, and they want to fight for the health and the vitality of this community. And so that's what we're working for today. And so when we formed together, we created a mission and values about how we do the work that we do together and some of our agreements. And so when we had our first meeting with just the teams, or we call them teams, which are essentially committees on various topics, we talked about the agreements. And so we're going to hear from Beth about our mission, and we're going to hear from Rochelle about our agreements. So we'll start with the mission.
So the mission is to ensure that Tucker County remains a vibrant, healthy, beautiful place where we can all live, work, and play for generations to come. So the mission is to be sure that the Tucker County remains a healthy, vibrant, beautiful place, and that we can live, work, and play here for generations to come. I also wanted to add just a little bit that even though Chris and I are some of the key coordinating team members, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're the leaders of Tucker United. We're kind of getting the pieces and making sure the puzzle pieces fit together, and that teams are talking to each other and kind of looking at the big picture. But the leadership is really from the whole group and of the steering committee, and from anybody who is looking to have a voice in this process. So just wanted to be clear on that.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Davis, and I'm going to read the group agreement. We create a brave space. We make space for all voices. We share the space, and we are aware of how much we speak compared to others. Each of our unique vantage points is necessary to help us deeper understand our work, each other, and our region. We are present and show up. Since our collaborative work is complex and all voices are needed, actively listen, be present, and offer our ideas as we are in this space. We seek to understand. Through active listening and seeking to understand, we lean into the complexity of our work. We accept permission to be messy. We share our thoughts and ideas no matter how incomplete we think they are. We share leadership or power. Partner with others to create agendas, outcomes that apply to our collective and collaborative work. Partner with others to do that work. We intentionally share power in spaces where we work. We call ourselves in and continually grow. We commit to ongoing learning, explicit dialogue, and ongoing evaluation as we become a more welcoming and inclusive community. If we are here, we are equal. Each of us are fully vested member of this team.
Thank you, Rochelle.
Great. I hope that we can all agree to those agreements because that's the spirit of what Tucker United is about, and we hope that this meeting and all future meetings really embody the spirit of those agreements. So does that seem like, I'm going to ask for a thumbs up if we think that we can get down with those agreements. We feel like that's something that we can do today. And if you're not sure, you can be in the middle. And if you're really not down with it, you can do thumbs down. Great. Well, thank you all for partaking in that little survey. It seems like we're all on the same page today. There's a few things that I do want to share. You see some cameras in the room. We have WBOI here in the room. We have Country Roads is here in the room. The church is recording this. It'll be, at least a piece of it will be on YouTube eventually. We have some people taking photographs and video, and so I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. And it's always, I was thinking about how do we start this meeting? And I think it's always good to talk about successes, because Rochelle talked about this being a messy process. And for all the people who are on the steering committee and been part of the committees, it's been pretty messy. We're moving quickly. We're not perfect. We're going in 50 different directions. But we've had some surprising successes. We've been getting our message out. We're grateful to the media, to all of you who've been posting about it on social media. We're grateful to the press who's been covering the story. We've been getting local press like Country Roads. We were on Fox News. Nikki, where are you at? Hey. Nikki and Al were on, Nikki is our spokesperson, one of our spokespeople, and Mayor Al were on Fox Business News, and they've basically endorsed our view, which is we should not have the data center and the power plant here. So they did a great job on Fox News. We've had some of the folks in the room were interviewed for a Wall Street Journal article. We've had Charleston's papers covering us. So we've had a lot of success, and I think the biggest success are the teams of people that have been working to try and understand this issue. So they continue to amaze me, the amount of information they get, the amount of contacts they find. If we don't have that information, they're finding industry experts to help us. So we need you. If you have expertise in any of these areas that the question comes up, find one of us, because we're going to recruit you to help us figure out how do we get answers on these things. So this is just the beginning, and again, I want to stress that we call people in, we don't call people out, and that this is going to be a messy process as we move forward. Today's meeting may feel like, wow, there were a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, and that's what we've been struggling with too. But we're going to share as much as we can about what we've been learning, and share at the end about where we're headed with some of our research. And we need your information and your questions to help us move in that direction. I would like, for a very high-level overview, I would like to invite Katie Russell up to talk a little bit about what we've learned. And you all should have handouts when you came in. It's you should have a handout that she's not going to cover it in exactly the same order, but just know that that's a high-level overview. There's a lot more information out there, and I want to direct you to the Tucker United, www.tuckerunited.com. Hello. It's the support team. I love grow and learn and help support our community. So please reference that document, go to the website, get more information. It's constantly being updated, but please understand what Katie's doing now is just very high level, and then we're going to dig into some more information in the latter part of this program. So take it away, Katie.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, folks. Thank you all for coming today. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. That's kind of a lie. I can't see you all and wear my glasses at the same time. So I just told my first lie. Sorry. Closer to the mic. All right. No, that's good. Okay, sorry, folks. Is that better? So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Katie Russell, and I love living in Tucker County. I've lived here for almost 30 years and have had jobs in healthcare, tourism, and hospitality. I also raised my sons here, and I am so grateful to have had this safe, supportive environment and community for them to grow up in. This is why I'm always looking for a way to give back. And that is also why my heart sank when I learned that the proposed power plant was meant to fuel a data center complex. Where I grew up in Manassas, Virginia, and where my mom still lives, there are so many data centers. They are everywhere. And so I have firsthand experience of how irritatingly loud they are, how much heat they produce, and what notoriously bad neighbors they are. I don't know anyone who lives by a data center that is happy to have it in their community. And these data centers are connected to the power grid. They don't have an attached natural gas power plant like the one proposed here in Tucker County is going to have. So before I get too far ahead of myself, let me give you all the background of what we've learned about this project, formerly called the Ridgeline Project to date. The company behind Ridgeline, Fundamental Data, is a contracted company out in Percyville, Virginia, and they have applied for an air quality permit from the West Virginia DEP. Their plan is to build a massive natural gas-powered and diesel-fired power plant directly in between Davis and Thomas. This power plant is going to be located within 1 mile of Davis-Thomas Elementary School and within 2 miles of most of the homes in Davis and Thomas. Fundamental Data has been very secretive about the Ridgeline project. The air quality permit is heavily blacked out, and while the company spokesman, Casey Chapman, is returning phone calls and has talked to several people with Tucker United, they haven't, neither he nor his company have given out a lot of information. They won't discuss projected revenue from the project. They won't discuss anything job-related, including what kind of jobs, how much they would pay, how many there will be, nothing. And they also won't agree to commit to hiring West Virginia natives or West Virginians first. We know data centers use a lot of water, and Fundamental Data won't comment on how much water their particular systems will need and where they plan to get this water. Casey Chapman did tell a member of Tucker United that they cannot guarantee this project won't affect our local aquifers. Fundamental Data also told the Wall Street Journal that the Ridgeline project could span 10,000 acres across Grant and Tucker counties and will be among the largest data center complexes in the world. I don't want this for my community. I don't want Ridgeline to be my neighbor or to be yours. There are so many reasons to be opposed to this project. A huge concern is for the pollution this gas and diesel power plant is going to emit. It's going to release harmful gases such as nitrous oxide and harmful contaminants like formaldehyde into the air we and our families breathe daily. These type of pollutants are known to increase the risk of ailments such as COPD, asthma, heart disease, and other lung issues in people exposed to them, especially when the exposure is long-term. A lot of West Virginians and our community members already suffer with lung and heart issues, and none of us can afford this added pressure to our health. Additionally, we all know we live in a bowl up here in Upper Tucker. The same process that causes us to hold under our weather is going to trap the pollutants from the power plant and the heat from the data centers. So rather than being dispersed and moving away from our area, the The heat and pollutants, sometimes, like times like this weekend, will be trapped in our local environment, possibly for days and weeks at a time. I'm worried we may start having blackout days where it is not safe to be outside. This isn't just going to be bad for our health, but it's going to negatively affect our thriving local tourist economy. So here's some facts for you. Currently, tourism supports 902 jobs in Tucker County and generates $85 million in revenue. But it's a real possibility that people are going to stop vacationing and visiting here if it's unhealthy to breathe our air and unsafe to be outside. I agree we need more jobs and better paying jobs than tourism jobs, but that doesn't mean we can afford to lose the majority of them. We need an industry that is compatible with our already thriving tourism economy and not one that could potentially ruin it. So, I already touched on another huge concern, and that is for our water. Data centers use a huge amount of water for their cooling systems, some as much as 1 million gallons a day. Our area already has water issues. Most of us remember last summer during the drought when Davis had to pull water from the Blackwater River and Thomas had to have potable water trucked in for weeks. It just doesn't seem like our little area can withstand this additional strain on our water resources. And fundamental data isn't giving us any information to dissuade our fears. They're not trying to be good neighbors, and they're not concerned with having community support. And they don't really have to. And this is mostly because of HB 2014. HB 2014, otherwise known as the Microgrid Data Center Bill, was passed by our state legislature last session. Its main purpose is to make West Virginia a really attractive location for data center complexes by making it quick and easy for them to build and operate in our state. One way the bill allows for this is by taking all decision-making power away from the local communities and the municipalities and leaving us with no control or leverage over what industries are built in our areas. So, for instance, other localities outside of West Virginia have been able to say to these huge companies things like, okay, you can build here, and you can build our high school a track for them to practice and compete on. Or our EMS system is severely underfunded. You can help us with that, and in turn, we'll approve your operation here. But HB 2014 takes all that power and decision-making away from us. HB 2014 also gives 70% of the revenue from these projects back to the state, leaving only 30% for the affected counties. We don't know how this money will be distributed among the county municipalities, but we do know that none of it has been earmarked for our schools, our roads, our fire departments, or our emergency services. Other rural communities near data centers have reported the revenue gain did not make up for the increased strain on their communities. And these are places that were receiving most of the revenue, not 30% like Tucker County will receive because of HB 2014. The Ridgeline Power Project and Data Center Complex is not going to give back to Tucker County. It's just going to take away the things we love most about living here. It's going to affect our water, ruin our night skies, impact or chase away our wildlife, ruin our beautiful views, and compromise our healthy air. Thank you.
There we go. Thanks so much, Katie. I want to, before we break into small groups, just make a couple of points about the information that we're sharing. We're trying really hard to have real information. We try to be clear when we don't know what the future holds, and we try to say that if we got information related to something that's tied perhaps to a similar sized plan in another state along the similar lines. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and you'll be hearing in the later part and Katie mentioned it, there's a highly redacted air quality permit that we have been trying to get more details on. Lots of us have been fighting for that, to get more information on it. It's not forthcoming, and Casey Chapman has not been forthcoming. So we will try to be clear when we are saying information is based on our best estimation of data from a similar plant or a similar location versus what is actual fact from maybe the air quality permit or something that fundamental data set on the record. So I want to be really clear about that. We are trying to dispel misinformation and get as much information out there. So a couple of things before we go into the breakout groups. I just want to walk you through what's going to happen in the next few minutes. So there's about 100 of us in this room. What we'd like to do is, where you're at in the pews, would recommend about 8 to 10 people in a group, and I'm sorry for the people that have to turn backwards. But if you can get together with a small group of folks nearby, that'll be your small breakout group. We're going to be together for about 20 or so minutes. Volunteers, can you guys raise your hands again so we know who you are? They're going to come by with bread, and they're going to make sure you also have these note cards where you can write your questions. One person in the group has a little bit of a task, accountability, to help us out. We really appreciate it. And if possible, volunteers from our group will be in that and try and help facilitate this. So we're going to distribute these instructions, but essentially we want you to get to know your neighbors. We want you to know who's in the room with you. So ask that you introduce yourself, where you're from, and what brought you to this meeting. And in particular, is there a concern that you have that really brought you into this room? And if you don't have a concern or you're not sure, that's perfectly fine, because that's the point of today's meeting, is to help us understand and help share out what we're learning. So it's okay to not have an opinion and just be like, I don't know, I'm just here to listen, because that's why we created this meeting. So a little bit of the messy chaos is about to begin. So I'm going to look at the time. All right, volunteers, stand up, and I'm going to need your help. It's 4:39. I'm hopeful that by 5:05, we will have facilitated you all into your groups.
Worse and worse and worse as it builds up. As Tucker United gets more organized and other groups get more organized, we try and find out information, and we're stymied and we're locked out at every corner of inquiry. The DEP said they were going to review the application, and then, oh well, we can just go ahead and let it go the way it is. So this process is going to take all of us to work together to make our voices, as this lady said, really loud and really heard, and all the groups have to work together, and hopefully we will succeed, because I've lived here for 25 years. I didn't come here for data centers. I came here for jolly sods, and I came here for the beautiful outdoors that it is. And the air pollution, the noise pollution, it's just outrageous. And I hope we can stop it. So, thank you.
Katie, what's your name?
Marilyn Schoenfeld. You're welcome.
All right, the middle's not off the hook. It was very loud here in the middle. Is there...
My name is Trip Huck, part-time resident of the county. The general theme here is the same as we just heard for the most part. We all were attracted to this place in the first place by the natural beauty, the quiet pace of life, and we're very concerned to see that go away. And also we agree with the objection we all have to the lack of engagement from the state, from our representatives, from the company, from everybody involved. The general question we have is, if this is such a good thing for our community, then why all the secrecy?
Barbara Peter. I've lived in Tucker County 48 years full-time. And one of the things our group has heard is that the objection to the data center is from non-locals, people who own second homes or come here as renters. I'd like every person who lives in Tucker County full-time to stand up. All right. Good.
All right, you thought you escaped.
My name's Tiana, I live in Thomas, and I birthed 2 babies here in Davis, just down the road on Kent Avenue in the 80s. So I've been in and out of Tucker County over the years, and my kids learned how to swim in these rivers. I love swimming up here. This is a recreation destination. In some ways I feel this is a civil war between the tech bros and the recreationalists. On some level it is that way. The fact that it was a secret plan, unbeknownst to all of us, unbeknownst to our officials, that's a red flag. I also feel personally that if this happens, it'll annihilate our tourism industry. With that point taken, someone in our group said, well, find out first. How does the tourism industry feel about this? Where does Timberline stand with this? How do they feel about it? Canary Valley Park, Blackwater Falls State Park, are they with us? Are they for the data centers? Because it will affect them, just like it will affect our businesses, our hospitality industry. Are they going to lose business? You know, they say build them and they will come. In this case, build them and they won't come. No one will want to come up here. They can stay in the cities and deal with that pollution, right? So I think we all need to find out where other people stand that have had businesses here and industries for years and years and years, families also. What kind of quality of life do they want for being up here? And I also would like to ask if you know of anyone who's here, second homeowners, retired people who want to get on board and help us out, whether you're a lawyer, an engineer, a biologist, somehow help us with this investigation, this research. Help us build our platforms, our armor, and help us take our cause to a place where we can feel more comfortable about living here and being here. Thank you.
As always, I'm a great spokesperson. Go ahead, Shani.
Sorry, I'm just going to play off.
I'm coming in to snuggle in next to you. Go ahead.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Shawnee Crosland. I'm a full-time resident. I've lived here for over 24 years. I've raised my daughters here. I'm just going to play off a bit of what Deanna said there. We do have a letter that is just started to be circulated. It is specifically right now for business owners in Tucker County. The letter is directed at the moment to our county commissioners. This is not in any way an attack. We just want to know their stance. Where are they, and to encourage them to support us. So if you are a business owner and you would like to have your information put on this letter, your name put on this letter, please come see me. If you know anyone directly with the state park, with Timberline, with anything like that, with any of those larger businesses in the area, let me know. Reach out to them. Send them to me, because just like Deanna said, we want as much support as we can get, and we want to know what these people have to say. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Great. So we are going to move into, it's like a game show. Do you see the people at the front of the room? They're taking all of your questions, sorting, figuring out who the right people are. There's like real-time research happening here. So I'm going to just move our signs, because we don't want our signs on the ground. All right. So a couple of things came up from those questions. One, I would be remiss if I didn't state this, which is that we did invite our county commissioners. They were individually invited by different members of this community group. I made a point on Friday of personally inviting them on behalf of the Tucker United group, and they are not here. But hopefully they're out doing research and will be receptive to us talking to them in the future. We will be planning to present at one of the commissioners' meetings. But we will not be daunted by the task of making our voices known to all of our electeds. So, a couple of things. Beth, are you ready? Okay. So, we're going to turn this part of the Q&A over to Beth, and I are going to kind of tag team on this because you can see all of us taking these questions and trying to figure out the order. So, the rules of engagement are we're going to try and do one hand raise and one card, and they're grouping questions so that we can try and get as many questions as possible. So, what am I missing for that part? I think, I also want to recognize the folks that have been doing some of the research. So when you speak from the Tucker United group, please, again, introduce yourself. And if you have a particular scientific or whatever qualification, or if you're just interested and know a lot of people, but whatever it is, please introduce yourself. And I do want to make a pitch. We do have some committees that you could join if you have a particular area of expertise. We have an environmental committee, a health committee, which Beth is helping to lead. We have quality of life. We have sort of our research and science kind of tech, which Zena is also helping to lead on that. So I'm going to turn this over to Beth, and you'll see us swapping the microphone because there's different people that have information. And actually, the first person who's going to speak, and my apologies, is Pam Moe. And then we're going to turn it over because there's a little bit of a time crunch. Do you want to come up, Brent? Or no?
Me too.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with Pam, and we should just express a debt of gratitude to Pam because she has an eagle eye and she spotted the information that helped start this. So Pam, I'm going to let you talk for a few minutes about the legal and also just how this came to be.
Well, like many of you, I read the newspaper, and that means all the legal notices, the obituaries, whatever's in the paper. So when I spotted that legal ad, I immediately contacted some of the organizations that I'm a member of, which included Maryland and the West Virginia Highlands Conservancy, and some other groups that are not as local but are statewide. And the Conservancy jumped up and took action right away and worked with Mayor Al, to make that Davis Town Hall meeting happen, where so many people showed up and we got such great media coverage. And that was really the explosive beginning of all of this, and it was wonderful. And since then, as you've heard, it's just growing and changing, and every day is a new thing. And as a person who moved here to Tucker County back in 1980 to teach at Tucker County High School, I got my job over the phone, and when they described Tucker County to me, I thought I was moving to heaven. I mean, I know that's the theme of the state, but at the time it wasn't. And I was just amazing for an outdoors person. I couldn't believe that I had landed my first job out of college in this location, and I'm still here. I did escape to Alaska for some years to teach, but I always came back in the summers. And so one of the things that I do as co-chair of the permitting and legal team, the other co-chair is not here. She lives down in Charleston, but she has property and a house in Lanesville with Luann McGovern. And she is a retired chemical engineer who is really a really good technical expert on the issues related to this. So also on our team is in the back a local lawyer, Brent Easton, that many of you know. And we have a couple of other members as well that I don't know if they're here, Carolyn Culver and Amy Margolis. I don't think I'm married. Oh, there you go. Okay. I haven't met you in person yet. We do a lot of Zoom calls and just a lot of telephone calls. But part of what I'm doing is tracking the permit. I'm speaking with the permit writer on a regular basis. I've been writing FOIAs, trying to get answers. And I just spoke with Jerry Williams on Friday, and so I thought I'd just share some of the information that I gleaned from him.
Who's Jerry Williams?
Jerry Williams is the air quality permit writer for the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. And so he is the one at the state DEP who this permit landed in his lap. And he's been there for a long time, so he doesn't seem to be too taken aback by having such a large issue to deal with.
Can you say what a FOIA is?
A FOIA is a Freedom of Information Act, and I've heard a lot of people in the audience talking about that. Anyone, any citizen can write to an agency, and there's rules about it, so you kind of have to be particular about how you do it, but you can request information. The challenge is with this particular permit, which is redacted, or as they say, blacked out, they are not giving the information. And the DEP did go to their legal department to explore whether or not the information that was not shown, they were calling it confidential business information, and they were saying, you know, we don't really think it is, we think you need to provide it to us. Well, as it turns out, they countered, fundamental data countered with their legal, and DEP is allowing the permit to move forward as is. I don't know what it's going to look like when we get to see it, and I continually ask, what is the timetable? When is this going to come out so that we can see it? And the last answer that I got was, hopefully by the end of next week, we will know the answer to that, and we may have something to tell you. Another question I've asked is, where is the public meeting going to be, and will it be available for people who work to be able to attend? I've gotten an answer to that first piece, which is they plan to have it here in Davis again at the fire department. And I think, Mayor Al, they're going to work through you to make that reservation. And so I said, well, once we know that the fire hall has been reserved, are we going to know that before it's placed as a legal ad in the Parsons Advocate? And they said, yes. Mayor Al can tell anybody he wants. And I said, well, that's good, because there's enough secrecy involved with this that, you know, I don't think you as an agency want to put yourselves in that same position if you can avoid that. Let me see. There's just so much technical information, and I guess one other thing that I want to mention, besides being a teacher, I'm also a paralegal, and DEP says that they will consider all the comments, and I know that Jerry, with all those comments, has put together a workbook. He knows, you know, the comments, the names, with those 400 and what was that, say, 85? 98, 498. He said that's not the people, that's the number of comments. And he said some of those comments are all coming from the same domain, which means the same location. And I said, well, we do have, you know, an online letter going in, so that would be where those comments come from. But he said they're still considered. My concern is that when the formal comment period opens, I know that I'm going to resubmit my comments because of that being the legal window. And I want to be sure that if we have these comments that have gone in, even if you resubmit the same comments during that public comment window, I think it's a really wise thing to do, because we're going to want to have people who live here, who have standing, because we are talking with lawyers in state and nationally who are helping us with this process. And so that is some of the advice that they've given us.
All right, you're not off the hook. So I have a two-part question. One of the questions I will answer, and one of them you can answer. So somebody is asking about potential lawsuits against the entities involved. They're not specific about the entities. Can you speak to anything about lawsuits?
I guess the only thing I can say about lawsuits without giving away any information, and the reason that I don't want to do that is because we don't want it to be out of the dust before we actually make our moves. And at the Davis Fire Hall, I learned through my FOIA that there was somebody from Fundamental Data monitoring the meeting. So that could be happening here too. So I just want to be very careful about what we say.
Great, so what I want to say on the lawsuit angle is that we have been talking, I keep standing up because I'm short. What I'd like to say is that we're talking to other groups like this community coalition in other parts of the country and learning from how they, they created lawsuits, who their plaintiffs were, what was their litigation strategy. We're talking to some of those, we're talking to those groups to learn from their experience Every state is enacting these kinds of projects differently. Some are creating legislation like West Virginia did, some are doing different things with tax breaks. So there will not be a cookie cutter, I think, approach to any legal strategy because it's really unique to West Virginia, but we are learning from those groups that are doing that. So that is part of the work of this group, and we'll keep talking to anybody we can about that strategy. The question that I had is Tucker United a formal 501c3? We are not a formal 501c3. We are a community coalition of neighbors and supporters of Tucker County, people who love this county. So these are made up of neighbors, homeowners, whether or not they're full-time, renters, people who come here, people who ski here but may not be a renter or an owner, just use Airbnbs. This is a community coalition, but what you saw in the room, the vast majority of the people leading this are people who live here full-time, but we do not distinguish between those people. People who want to fight for Tucker County are welcome in this coalition. Okay.
I just wanted to say one more thing about fundraising, because we're going to have to pay for lawyers, we're going to have to pay for experts, and there is a process in the works that will be set up for people to be able to raise money for this effort that will be through a 501c3. So that money would also be tax deductible if you're in the process of doing that. So I just wanted to mention that. We'll tell you more when that becomes firm.
Great. So thank you to that committee, and Pam, we owe you a debt of gratitude for really having that eagle eye spot on that. Okay. Enough of me chit-chatting. We're going to hand it back over to Zena and then Beth, and I think they'll be going back and forth. We have a lot of questions. Keep your questions coming as they're reporting out what they're hearing or what they know. Raise your hand if you want a blank postcard or if you want us to pick up another question.
My name is Zina Ray. I volunteer my services to Tucker United as a PMP certified project manager. My background is in software development. Most recently, I worked on several projects based on artificial intelligence, so I know the subject firsthand. Also, I started my career as a network engineer and worked for some period of time for MCI and then Verizon as an integrator consultant, meaning we connected large networks to large data centers and also provided software services on top of that entire package. So I have advantage of having background in kind of full aspect of this type of endeavors. And there are a couple of questions here, they are tied together, so let me start with the first one and then we will answer what kind of is logical consequence to that question. So the first question is, what is the timeline for this project? When do they expect to begin construction? What steps needed to be taken before construction begins? So typically you start with the initial site survey. You're looking for suitability and the entitlements, meaning do you have roads already existing? Do you have fiber in the vicinity that is sufficient to support your daily needs? Are there sufficient surface body of water that can allow your cheap cooling? Keep that in mind. You will hear a lot that there are new technologies that do zero water usage. It's not technically correct. You never have zero water usage. There are technologies now that allow for a significantly less water, but they come at the expense of more electricity that is used for that cooling process. If we're talking typical traditional data centers that you can see in Loudoun, that still requires water. So one of the steps after the initial land survey, you would pull the permits. Air quality permit is one first stage that is currently we're dealing with. After that, there is a water permit, and also depending on your air permit, whether you qualify as a minor synthetic source or major source, there may be environmental impact study. What I personally find devious in this permit is that they are making a case that they are synthetic minor source. If you look at the numbers, there is no way the projected capacity can slide under that classification. So my personal letter to Jerry Williams was that this is a misrepresentation of what the true air pollution capability of this plant will be. And it does need to be qualified as a major source. But guess what? That will trigger environmental impact assessment. It's a very expensive endeavor. It will comprehensively look at everything in the area. Water, endangered species, endangered plants, everything. No developer wants to go to it. And as you can imagine, if you have even slightest chance to apply as a synthetic minor source, you will take that chance. So that kind of wraps up the preliminary stage. When construction begins, there are several things that are running in parallel. While you're breaking ground, removing heavy equipment, you also have previously already placed an order for your gas turbines. What's happening now in that industry? You probably heard about Project Stargate. That is a large initiative that is funded by Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank that will increase the data center capacity. First is already being built in Abilene, Texas. If you Google that on YouTube, you will find very interesting videos of what it looks like. That is a size comparable to what's in this permit. So do look up that video. It's very impressive. It's a good thing when it's built in the right place. I continue maintaining that this is the wrong place, and I don't know where in West Virginia is the right place for it, but the construction is humongous. And back to gas turbines. There is a backlog 12 to 18 months for this equipment. As you can imagine, this is not your washer, dryer, or refrigerator. When you place an order, there is a long wait time. There may be valid reason why people redact certain information in the permit. There are competitive situations where if somebody knows that I'm bidding on this and I'm putting General Electric 07 dot whatever turbine, they can take it under me. They can rebid it and offer different number for the turbine. So
hold your microphone up to your mouth, please?
sure. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So about turbines, I guess my point there is that there is some length of time before this can come into fruition, even under most ideal conditions. Currently, we are not dealing with ideal conditions. So the reductions in permit may have a reasonable source. However, in my personal opinion, they are excessive. They may cover the specific make and model of turbine, but they still can provide information that reasonably gives public the idea what is the projected volume of pollution would be expected out of it. And that's what I didn't see in that permit. So anyway, that brings us to second batch of questions, and let me just read them all. You will see they all have a common theme. Who really owns the company, fundamental data? Where is the money coming from? Who is behind fundamental data? Why did fundamental data choose this particular location? Does it mainly come down to Western Pocahontas owning so much land to make it easy to negotiate and acquire? Sorry, a little illegible. So was Corbin Valley, Western Pocahontas properties just a cover-up for this project? So I cannot speculate on what Western Pocahontas thinks or does. I can only make a conjecture based on what we see in other parts of the country in a similar situation. It is advantage that Western Pocahontas has continuous tract of land. If you are thinking of expansion and you start with power plant in one data center, it absolutely benefits you as a business if you have continuous tract of land. Now, who is behind fundamental data and why is it secrecy? So as we were going through the process of permitting, large data center businesses that have organizational competency in building something like this, you probably heard QTS, Digital Realty Trust, Compass. So those are huge companies with a lot of experience. They normally have somebody who already does the engineering, site surveying, and permits, and they come in and build it. Now, imagine a situation that you are a landowner somewhere in the middle of West Virginia. You had the land for a very, very long time. And somebody comes to you and says, I want to buy this land, and it's 10K an acre. Now, if you learn that this same very land will be used for the data center of Google, well, that acre becomes immediately 150K an acre, right? So that's why these shell companies are created, and they operate fairly, secretly, research the land, pull the permits, create a nice package, and provide it as unsolicited proposal to somebody like HITT, QTS, or Project Stargate. And so that all kind of leads us to believe that, fundamental data was created as such shell company precisely for this purpose. They have no vested interest in well-being of Tucker County. They have no vested interest in creating sustainable long-term solution, but they do want to use the current market winds and ride those winds to their full advantage. And that's, I guess, at this point, I will just stop and see if there are any other additional questions on this topic.
We're actually going to move to so we have a lot So I think we're going to move to the next written question. Thank you. Lisa is really a wealth of knowledge. Another thing before we go to the next question is that we forgot to mention that the Parsons Advocate is here, and we thank you for being here.
Hey, Beth, really quickly, can we just say, I want to say thank you to Zena for how diplomatic and appropriate she is on Facebook managing so many.
My name's Hannah Tierney. I live here in the Valley, and I'm here with Nikki and Amy. We are going to kind of collaborate on answering some of these questions that were really highlighted in our groups. For me, primarily, it boiled down to what can I do? What power do we have to push back against HB 2014? What power do we have as individual people here in this community? What power do we have collectively in this community? So I wanted to say the question first, and then I think collaborate on answering what we can do together to answer what we can do. So I think it's very important to note how important each and every person's voice is in this room. It doesn't matter, again, whether you're a full-time resident, part-time resident, even if you're just a tourist that enjoys coming out here. It doesn't matter your age, or if you have kids, or if you're just retired here. None of those things are important. What is important to remember is that we're all humans who are concerned, and we should absolutely have our politicians and our representatives that we've elected to be in those positions representing our voices here. Part of that is in acknowledging our voices, and which right now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not feeling like my voice is being acknowledged. So we have a series of different things, action steps that you can do from the comforts of your computer or phone if you're able to. You can share them within your community bounds, whether it's at your church or even at the shop and save, seeing a friend. I have a list of things on my phone, which I guess I'll get later. But it all starts with It all starts with these action alerts that you might have seen. We've had the beautiful privilege of having these quick forms generated on our behalf.
And so the action forms are already set up with language, and they're already set up with emails. All you have to do is click them, insert your personal information, and hit send. You are welcome to create a more unique, personalized message if you would prefer that. But this is a quick way to let your voice be documented, which is really important, and heard at the same time. And it's also really quick to share those with your friends. It doesn't take a lot of savvy know-how to be able to click send and share, I think, these days.
Sure. I think another big thing we can start doing right now, sorry, ooh, wow, is calling up Casey Chapman in Fundamental Data and telling them you oppose this project. They have an office phone number that's included on the little flyer that I handed out, and I think that so far they've been picking up our phone calls. I'm not sure that they trust our emails or from real people if there's no phone number attached to them, so I think calling is the way to go.
Yes, I've spoken with Casey on the phone. He says he won't call anybody back, or he won't email anybody back. He only wants phone calls. So leave your personal phone there, and hope to hear back from him. Okay, so other action items. I'm just going to run through a bulleted list. Contact your county commissioners. Contact your county commissioners. Contact your county commissioners. And today we have live an action alert where you can contact your county commissioners. So we're going to share that on our Facebook page. We're also going to be sharing that on our website. Again, it's already generated language for you. All you have to do is click send. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as a community right now.
What is the website?
TuckerUnited.com.
As the leader was saying, don't know his first name, about very soon presenting this to the county commission at a meeting, I would ask that you make sure we all know about it, because I think numbers are very important at those county commission meetings. And so just having a shell of the leadership won't be as effective as getting as many of us as possible to be able to.
I couldn't agree more. So let me give you some dates. We have our Thomas Town Council meeting on June 10th. We're getting on the agenda to present a resolution similarly to the one in Davis that got passed. Thank you so much, Davis Town Council. We also plan to likely do a similar presentation in Parsons. And then County Commissioners meeting is June 11th or the 26th. We're still trying to figure out which date works best. But our goal is absolutely to have this exact same proposal and presentation given there, and to demand or request a resolution for that. We're also going to continue to ask that you, like she had said earlier, press the air quality issues. We've talked about hosting an empty town hall, which we can discuss what that kind of looks like. Essentially requesting that our representatives come to these meetings, and then when they don't show up, we can document that very loud and proud. I'm personally hosting a Popsicles Playdate this Thursday, June 5th at 5 p.m. Trying to connect and share concerns from a mom's perspective. It's probably not the best environment for kids to run around here, but it will be June 5th at the Davis Community Center, so please share that. We're trying to get yard signs out. And then further down the road, what can you do? Well, we can try to figure out how to amend HB 2014 to bring our local governance back here. And then from that point on, to create some zoning ordinances that make sense. Something that's not maybe too constrictive, but could push back against logical steps going forward.
Anyone else have action ideas of things we can do?
Sorry, let me just add one more thing. My name's Amy, and I'm helping out with the advocacy work. And something that we haven't mentioned that I think is unique to each one of you is your personal relationships, right? So this is different than doing a form letter. You all have relationships between each other, in the community, out of the community, across the county line, in the state, that we don't even know about and we don't have. So that is an immense power that each individual has. And so if you know people who don't have information, want to know, or are in favor of this project and need more information, if you know our elected representatives personally, if you know WPP representatives personally, there are certain actors that we have difficulty getting in touch with, your personal relationships and conversations are kind of like a multiplier force that we can never tap, just as an organization. So that's how kind of we will pull on the community and ask for everyone to come together and talk.
The only other thought, which is a lie. I think visual aids are really impactful, and I'm certainly no videographer or cinematographer, but I've been putting together and creating and collecting interviews of people, because I think that it's really important and impactful to see your faces with your words saying you don't want here and why. So if you're interested in just meeting me outside here or any of these follow-up dates, I'd be thrilled to catch little short interviews of you sharing your why and what your concerns are. And I'm going to make a compilation, and I'm going to continue to keep those loud and pushed on Facebook and Instagram and all of the other social media things.
Yes, and more to come, as we have a million ideas a day. All right, so questions that came in were, how do we craft a message that is clear that even if we got more info, we still don't want this? The current message seems to suggest that the goal is to get more info, like numbers to jobs. So I think that's a great question. I think that so far through our conversations, the biggest reasons to support this project are those two things, jobs and revenue. So that's why we were trying to get more information about those things to figure out, would this even benefit anyone here? But I think as an organization, we've made our stance clear. We oppose this project anywhere in Tucker County, and we believe that every county and every local community member and their local officials should have a right to decide what happens in their own communities. Those are the two things that we are pushing for as an organization, and we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to share that message loud and proud on our website and through all the media interviews that we do, and everywhere else we possibly can, and probably most importantly, through conversations that we have in this community. But I think information is helpful to help make the point, and it's been hard to get that information, and that alone has been a key point to all of us. So our strategy for making our voices heard, so much of it now has been calling our local representatives, calling our state representatives, calling the governor, sending emails, contacting the West Virginia DEP. I mean, the air quality permits really, and putting pressure on the company itself through calling Casey Chapman. So that's been our strategy so far. I think that this meeting was huge and has been a goal for a really long time since we started, so that we could all make our voices heard here together. We do have a Facebook page that just launched, thanks to Shawnee. And yeah, we'll just continue pushing forward on all those things. There were also a couple questions about what's Grant County's stance, what are they doing about this, and I personally haven't contacted anyone in Grant County yet, but I would love to find a way to do that moving forward. So I think that's another great step, and we'll just keep building on this, and I think use the strategy of getting our message out there in every way we possibly can. Also through flyers and a lot of just printed media around our town.
Yeah, again, just reach out to us if you're not on our mailing list. Please join. We'll give out calls to action when we have them. We'll give out information about events. The website is pretty well updated. And if you have contacts, for example, in Grant County, and you want to reach out to someone there, get in touch with us, and we're happy to work on a strategy. We're kind of continually reaching out to other folks who are working in this area, and I think something we've talked about a lot is, it is a very local fight, but it's also bigger than us. This is bigger than just Davis and Thomas. This is our immediate thing in front of our faces, but we're part of a bigger fight, definitely within the whole state, because all of the counties in West Virginia are starting to realize what is happening. And some of the representatives, frankly, don't even realize what they signed. And so it's a little appalling. We're in this broader fight, and so I'm just saying that to kind of give you momentum and strength, because there are lots of other folks who are really worried about this, and we're talking to folks in Virginia who have been through this, and they've given us advice. There's a recent success that happened in Pennsylvania County, Virginia. They pushed out a very large data center. Similarly, a small rural community, they just did it on their own. So it's not impossible, and we're doing our best to kind of bring in all the resources. So if you have good ideas, please share them with us.
One of the questions here was about first responders and if our infrastructure can handle 10,000 acres of a data center. I'm just going to suggest no. And that's a pretty quick card to answer, so I'm going to say no.
Okay, so we are going to try to take a couple of questions. We are going to try to take a few questions from the audience. Matt had his hand up, but he's gone, so go ahead.
One of my concerns, I remember reading in the newspaper or online that the data center was going to have two sources of energy. One was natural gas and the second one was diesel fuel. And in the application, they were asking for 100,000 gallons of diesel fuel to be backup electricity. And one of the first things that came to my mind was the situation in West Virginia a few years ago with American Water and the contamination from a tank of failure. And I'm thinking about what happens with 100,000 gallons of diesel fuel in Tucker County with our rivers.
So the number is different.
30 million gallons, not 100,000. 30 million gallons.
Well, that's huge.
Good. Yeah.
That's a problem. I don't call that backup. I do not call that a backup. How many hours will that number of millions of gallons last? And why do we need them? And how are they going to get it here?
Don't run
Thank you.
diesel 30% of the time.
That's not backup. Right.
I'm going to try and run a mic so we can make sure everybody hears these questions. So give me a second.
So I think that's a really good point. There are several people that are working on quantifying the number of trucks that would be coming in and out. There have been some basic quantification efforts going on. I think that everybody in this room is in agreement with that comment. Clearly, yes, it's a backup source, but clearly they intend to be using it. And we know that just the truck traffic alone is a significant concern on our roads, for traffic, for accidents, for emergency responders. But also, too, we know that diesel is 200 to 600 times more harmful to us from an air pollutant emissions. So when that diesel is running, that's a really big concern to us and everyone's health. Whether you are a healthy person already, whether you have pre-existing conditions, whether you're very young, whether you are older age, it's going to impact everyone. And this weekend is a good thought on when that haze came through and that smell and that, what is that? Should I be outside? That was kind of a preview that's not the same, but all of those points are completely valid and huge concerns for everyone probably in this room.
Yeah, I mean, last year alone in Tucker County, there was a huge diesel spill, miles long from trucks.
Right on the Randolph County line.
Right, bad, really bad, right next to Haddock's Creek, running right into the Schaefer's Fork, running right into the Chief River.
Yes.
One truck.
Yes.
And we're talking about millions of gallons? No.
Yes. One thing with that too, as Chris goes over to Shawnee, is that there are air quality monitors that have been installed throughout Tucker County, so we can get a baseline information on what our baseline looks like, what it looks like when we have wildfire smoke that's coming our way, or whether it's from the desert, wherever it's coming from, that particulate matter. And those are live right now, so that's really helpful data going in. Shawnee, did you want to add something?
I really didn't have a question, but I did just want to circle back around real quick. When the advocacy group was talking, there was someone in the crowd up there that said, let us know, make sure everybody knows what's going on, what events are going on. Hannah had mentioned the presentation for Thomas. We are on the agenda for Thomas. We are on the agenda for the Thomas meeting in June 10th. Obviously, the more people that shows up, the merrier. The idea, like Hannah said, is to get them to pass a similar resolution. The more that we can stand together as a local community on a smaller scale, the more I think will impact at larger scale. So if you're a resident of Thomas, come on out. Yes. The information will be on the website, and we'll be sending an action alert.
Prioritize the later date in the commission meeting, only because you'll have had an opportunity to get the support from each of the communities. And that might matter to the county commission.
So that comment was, it might be a good reason to wait for the later date for the county commission if we already have the support of Davis and Thomas. That kind of builds our momentum. Katie has a question about jobs that she's going to
Okay, jobs. So the question is full-time, livable wage, on-site training for unqualified folks, preference for local individuals. And the answer is we don't know. Fundamental data, like I said in my talk, hasn't given us very much information. Our research committee, several of them work in the industry, and they estimate that the power plant could potentially provide 25 to 30 jobs. A lot of it would be automated and off-site, and we don't know how many of these jobs would be full-time, but they have benefits. I assume some of them would. Some of them will probably be custodial and security. Another thought is that during the construction period, these places would hire local people. But I've talked to other people in the industry, and they say that these companies, there's whole companies that all they do is build data centers. And they go from one place to the next to the next. So that'll be a little bit of a boom and bust kind of situation for the area. And if you're building, there'll be a little extra revenue, and then they'll just be gone again. The data centers themselves, we know the little list about. They're going to be fully automated. They won't hire very many people. I've seen estimates of 8 for each data center, and I've seen estimates that are a little higher. They usually work from remote hubs. There are no remote hubs like that here in West Virginia, so at the data centers, most of the jobs will probably do custodial and security. There also isn't any good training in the state to get a master's degree to work in one of these facilities and get one of the really good high-paying jobs. I think Penn State is the closest place. You could get education at like DeVry or Grand Canyon University online to get like a little more menial job in one of these data centers. So a lot of that's speculation, but that's what we know so far. So thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be trying to be mindful of time. There are many, many, many questions up here, which makes it's really exciting because that shows engagement, but we know that we had said that we were going until about 6. So one of the things, just to kind of drive that point home, last week conversation within our group with Casey Chapman, that just to reiterate, he would not guarantee any jobs to West Virginians or people from Tucker County. He would not guarantee any number of jobs, any type of job, any salary of jobs, committing to any kind of training to work in the data center. And those are all, they're just really sad, right? If you're thinking about a neighbor and what you want somebody who's investing in our county to look like, that does not look like a good neighbor. So that's one of the big issues. I think what we'll do right now is go to, okay, yes, urgent question.
Wait, hold on. You don't even know what you have to say.
I see that.
Yes, you do.
Hey, I know, and we all should just be aware that you guys are all volunteers. Tucker County United didn't exist just very shortly ago, and it rose out of something, a need. Every single one of your skill sets has dovetailed beautifully. The collaboration, the legalese, the community steering. I just want to recognize and thank you all for putting in all of your unpaid labor. Responsibilities, things that we all know that we need to be doing, and instead you're dedicating this, well, not instead, but in addition to all of the things that make a person, you're doing this, and I just wanted to say thank you. And there's a sentiment in Tucker County that if you want something done, you better do it yourself, and this is what's happening right now in action, in real life. Thank you so much for your time.
To be able to recognize a lot of these questions that are here, but also think about timing. We don't want to brush any of these under the rug. Every single question is important, as are all of the questions that we will have as we leave here in 2 weeks in the future. And so I'm just going to kind of briefly go through the stack, and so we know the questions that are on people's minds, even though we can't answer them all today. I hope that that's okay. So this is a question about Western Pocahontas.
Nice and loud, please.
Okay. Western Pocahontas, please investigate how their corporation is doing in opposing projects, selling their land, thinking about acid mine drainage, reclamation, luxury homes, and how these projects conflict or maybe work in concert with each other. This is another one about Pocahontas, who's reached out, how can we help them solve their problem of land in a different way. That one also kind of goes with the question over here, which I'm just going to throw this out there for you all to think, for all of us, to think about, which is what kind of alternatives can we create for a more positive version of our community on that land. And so that's us really thinking about, like, do we think about trying to buy that land? You know, what do we do with that land? How do we create those jobs that we know our community needs? How do we create that revenue that we know the community needs? We need some kind of a competition is the idea. So keep that in the back of your mind. What kind of revenue does Tucker County receive from Western Pocahontas? What's the tax classification of their Western Pocahontas properties? I read this the other day and I can't remember the name of it. It's something about forested land. Managed timberland. The timing for events in the DEP review, so that is something that's on our website with those action alerts, and we will keep you informed on that. And talking about open forums. This is about diesel fuel, we talked about that. Air quality standards for natural gas power plants in West Virginia, who would regulate them? This is something to think about. Right now, our EPA is in process of reducing regulation on air quality issues, right? And so we can assume that if we have a power plant right here, it will not be regulated as it has been in the past. We can assume that that's going to be less stringent and higher impact on our health, which I can't stress enough. This is a big deal. These are well-documented effects, and this is the main reason why I am standing here in front of you, because it's going to impact all of us. Where's the water coming from? We talked about that a little bit. We don't know, but they would likely be drawing from the aquifer, probably deep wells, and it could be large amounts. Light pollution, migratory birds. I learned talking with a group that there was a big migratory bird kill-off when the high school changed their lighting. And so that's something that could be a really big deal. These data centers have security impacts, and so they're going to be lit up, dark skies, and also migratory birds. Question about how do we link with other coalitions? That's important. That's been touched on. We need to get better and better and better at that. Property value. It's going to probably tank our property value.
Casey Chapman said he wouldn't buy a home here if this was built.
Here, let's see that over here.
Yeah. When I spoke to Casey Chapman, he said he probably would not consider buying a home here if the facility was built.
Excellent neighbor. Sign me up. How do we get our voices heard? We've been talking about that a little bit. This is just another bully situation from the top down. Yes, and I would say out-of-state interests, large corporations. Where does Timberline stand?
I'm meeting with them tomorrow. Yay, Brandon.
Excellent. Meeting with them tomorrow, small group, trying to work with them. If they're not willing to go kind of with a public perspective, maybe they could do some behind-the-scenes stuff is the hope. So, but hopefully they'll come out with us as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Hunting club, does the hunting club have concerns? Does Timberline have concerns? State parks, so how do we engage with the state parks even though they are state? How do we engage with them, because this is a huge concern on the volume of people, the tourism, and then the surrounding impacts from that. There's a lot of questions about cost and revenue. One thing that I'm not sure if we hit in the presentations is that the House Bill 2014 changes the way that the taxes are coming back to the county. And so if you don't know this already, you should know that 70% of that revenue would be going to Charleston. 30% would be coming here. So our community would only get 30%, 70 to Charleston, and we would be suffering. Exactly, and we don't know how the county would break it down to individual communities, if at all. And none of it would go to the public schools, so that's something that you should know. That's not a very good deal. There's questions about, let's see, who would assess the data center and set the tax? Probably not the county assessor, it says, and more likely the state tax departments. I think we've gotten most of these. Why can't we get our representatives to represent us? And then more on Western Pocahontas. Sorry. There's also, it's hard to keep track of all the things in HB 2014 if you want to be really kind of fascinated and disturbed, go in there on the website and read all of it, the details, but there is basically a tax subsidy for these. This is, the purpose of this bill was to incentivize these type of large facilities, and so they're being taxed at a different property tax rate than all of you are, and other types of businesses in our state. So just FYI.
Yes. Okay. So just a couple of things. Let's come up behind here. All right. So I want to point out a couple of things. One is we have a display copy, which there's about 4 copies back there. It's a lot of good information that we presented to the Davistown Council. We'll be doing different kinds of presentations depending on where we go. It's on the table at the back. You can go ahead and take a look. If you feel like you really must have a copy, go ahead and take it. We're trying to save trees by not making a gazillion copies, but if you want it, you can have it.
Or they can take a picture of each page.
It's on the website. We'll put it on the website.
For those who are not.
Okay. Okay, so I try to be mindful of time when we leave meetings, so there's a couple of things we need to be doing to wrap up. But I did promise our Mayor Davis Al, he gets 3 minutes. When we talked about counting our victories and our successes, we really need to be grateful to our Davistown Council for the recent victory that they came on board 100% behind this and passed a resolution. Hopefully, it's the first of many other towns that come on board with that type of resolution trying to protect the state of West Virginia. So Al, I'm going to give the microphone, the floor to you for 3 minutes. He has a challenge for us before we wrap, so please stay after Al finishes. Go ahead.
So I need to ask the Tucker United, we gave them 15 minutes for the town council meeting. They didn't stick to that either. Hey, just a couple things. I mean, you guys know where I stand. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Al Thompson, and I'm married to the First Lady of Davis. And you can read all about her in Tucker County Observer. But I want to give you a little bit of insight because I need your help with my peers, the other local officials. One of the things that I keep hearing from some of these people is that we only represent the residents of Tucker County. And personally, I shouldn't say it in church, but that's bullshit. Because everybody counts, whether you're a tourist here, you're a second homeowner, you've lived here all your life, or you've moved here. Every human being that comes here to recreate and enjoy this beautiful area counts. So try to stress that point that everybody counts. The other thing is that many of them are saying, I don't know enough information, so I'm not going to take the position. My philosophy is a little bit different. If you don't give me the information that I need, then I'm going to say no. If you're not going to tell me about the water, I'm going to say no. If you're not going to tell me about the air pollution, I'm going to say no. If you're not going to tell me how it's going to harm human beings or protect them, I'm going to say no until you convince me otherwise. And more local politicians need to say no until they know better. And if you could help with that, that would The other thing that I have is really for the media. Maybe it's a shameless plug. But Governor Morrissey just finished going on a tour around the state promoting his successes in governance with the legislative session. It was noted that he skipped Tucker County. I think he was afraid to come to Tucker County. I think Governor Morrissey was afraid to listen to the opinions of local people in Tucker County. I think Governor Morrissey was afraid to meet with me when I offered to go to Charleston and talk about this issue. I invite Governor Morrissey to come to Davis and meet with me. I challenge Governor Morrissey to man up. I encourage Governor Morrissey to have a man-to-man conversation about this issue. If it's so good, tell me about it. So I invite him to come to Davis. I want to meet with him, and I'd be happy to take him on a tour around our beautiful area and show him what we're trying to protect. That's right. Thank you. You guys have good time. I forgot, I'm old, one more thing I was supposed to tell you, is that when we do get the meeting scheduled for the public to voice their opinions and express their thoughts to the DEP, I will share that both on the Davis Town Facebook page, the Davis website, and with anybody that will listen. Thank you.
All right, well, challenge. So a few things. We, at the end, if we want to take a picture with all of you holding signs up here, so we're going to do that at the end. But before we wrap up, just a heartfelt thank you to everybody. And look around the room. The problem is we're about 100 and there's about 1,100 more people we need to get into this room. So we're doing the best that we can, but we need your help. How do we get to the people that are not connected via technology? Can you help us get to the elders that may not be able to have a computer or Facebook, text messages? Help us do better communicating with our communities. So Hannah is at the back. She's going to be asking you questions on the way out, like, how did you hear about this? Can you help us figure out how to get more people in the room, more people to understand what's at risk? So we really do need your help. We'll only win if we're all in this together. So thank you all for that. And we owe a debt of gratitude for St. John's Lutheran Church, so thank you so much, Pastor. And we're grateful for the bread donation from Sirianni's, and I thank you, Sirianni. I'd like to keep that tradition alive, that we don't just talk about heartfelt, hard things, but that we break bread together, because it equalizes the conversation. It brings us all to the same place where we're connected through that. I would like to let you know that we have any of the leftover bread will be donated to either the food pantry or the blessing box, so please know. Or if there's somebody you know that's in need, we have additional loaves downstairs. We're happy to, or if you're in need, we're happy to gift that to you. It will not go to waste. We take that very seriously. I also would like to, as when we speak about a community, really recognize Friends of Blackwater and the Highlands Conservancy for coming out strong, being a great partner. Really do need more partners. If you have suggestions, as this team has said, we are talking to everybody and anybody that can help us in this cause. So if there's an attorney or another group that you know is going through this, please let us know. Again, Hannah has the suggestion cards. Let us know what we can do. And I would also just really like to ask that everybody who's given any amount of time, whether it's answered a question, asked a neighbor to come, to please stand up. So the volunteer, the steering committee, but all the folks who have helped us. So go ahead and stand up, because these are the people that you can talk to about how to get involved. like the rest, keep standing. And I'd like the rest of you to stand up because there's no way we're going to win this battle if we sit down. So get to your feet because it's going to take boots on the ground. And I want to hear some stomping. And following the stomping, we're going to come up here and take a really cool photo with tons of pictures. Okay, we'll do it this way. So let's hear some stomping because it's going to take boots on the ground. All right, so we're going to get a picture. We have a lot of signs. Come on up. Yeah, stay in the pews, it'll be easier. All right. Well, I guess the press is taking the picture.
Yeah, sorry.
Up there.